Imagine you are driving a car at 90 miles an hour. The dashboard says you have plenty of fuel. The speedometer says you are accelerating. But if you look out the window, the trees aren't blurring past you anymore. They are standing still. The engine is screaming, but you aren't moving. This is the American economy in 2026. We are witnessing a phenomenon that economists call a broken dashboard. The New York Times recently admitted that the global economy's warning signals are broken. They say it's as if cars started speeding up at a flashing yellow light. But they are wrong. The car isn't speeding up. The engine is just overheating before it blows. We have seen this script before. We saw it in 1929. We saw it in 2008. And every single time, right before the cliff, the experts said the consumer was strong. They thought they were different. Today, I am going to show you why the U.S. consumer, the engine of the global economy, isn't just slowing down. It has already stopped. Let's look at the numbers they put on the news versus the numbers in your bank account. Wall Street is celebrating. Why? Because Janice Henderson reports that AI capital spending and wealthy consumers have kept growth resilient. That is the key phrase, wealthy consumers. If you make over $200,000 a year, this economy looks great. Your house is up, your portfolio is up, but for everyone else, the ground has crumbled. Here is the statistic they bury. Private label food purchases have surged by 17% year over year. Think about what that means. You don't switch from name brand pasta to the store brand because you love the taste of cardboard. You do it because you have no choice. This is what we call the trade down. It is the first stage of the consumer collapse. Look at the Consumer Price Index, CPI. It hit 326.030 by December 2025. That is a boring number until you realize what it represents. It represents a permanent structural erosion of your life. Prices aren't just high. They are permanently stuck at a level where your 2020 salary buys 2025 poverty. Consumer sentiment has dropped to a 12-year low. Americans are gloomy, depressed about their finances, yet spending has risen. How? Debt. The New York Times calls this topsy-turvy. They say Americans have not stopped shopping, but this is instant shopping. This is running on fumes. In 2007, just months before the great financial crisis, consumer spending hit record highs. People were using their homes like ATMs. They felt rich because the paper value of their assets was high. They thought they were different. They thought the laws of math didn't apply to them. But debt always comes due. If the U.S. consumer is sneezing, the rest of the world is already in the hospital. Look at Canada. Our neighbor to the north is often a preview of what happens here. Canada's GDP growth has flatlined at 0.9%. Their inflation is sticky at 2.1%. But look at the budget balance. Minus 1.8% of GDP. The Economist reports that punitive American tariffs will do genuine damage to them. But the damage is already done. When the American consumer stops buying, Canada stops exporting. Look at Vietnam, a population of 102.2 million people. They were supposed to be the new manufacturing miracle, but their economy is set to decelerate because American protectionism weighs on investment, exports, and consumption. Do you see the chain reaction? You stop buying cheap electronics to Vietnam factories, slow down to global shipping volumes, drop to U.S. logistics companies, fire workers too. You have less money to buy electronics. It is a death spiral. The United Kingdom isn't saving us either. Their economy is set to languish despite a projected 2.5% growth in some sectors, weighed down by tax rises and a tight budget. And here in the U.S., the GDP growth is sitting at 1.4%. Wait a minute. BNP Paribas told us that the Fed's GDP forecast was approximately 2.5%. They said tax benefits would support consumer spending, so the forecast was 2.5%. The reality is 1.4%. That is a massive miss. That is the sound of a car slamming into a wall at half speed. Bel Air Investment Advisors warned us about this. They said, tepid labor market conditions may morph into a sharp and self-reinforcing rise in unemployment. Self-reinforcing. That means once it starts, you can't stop it. So what is the government doing? They are pulling the only lever they have left. The federal funds rate has dropped to 3.64% by January 2026. Wall Street loves this. They scream, "Pivot! Pivot! The money is cheap again." But let's look at history. Why does the Fed cut rates? Do they cut rates when the economy is booming? No. They cut rates when they are terrified. A rate of 3.64% is still restrictive compared to the 0% interest world we lived in for a decade. It's not low enough to save you, but it's low enough to signal panic. And despite this easing, the U.S. budget balance is minus 6.6% of GDP. We are borrowing trillions just to keep the lights on. The money supply, M2, is at 22,411.0. There is cash in the system, but it's not circulating. It's stagnant. This is the liquidity trap. In the 1970s, they tried to print their way out of a slowdown. It led to stagflation. In the 1920s, they kept credit loose until the bubble burst. In every single cycle, there is a moment where the central bank tries to engineer a soft landing. They tell you, we have the tools. We have the data. We can land this plane. They thought they were different, but the data shows the U.S. population of 349 million people is tapped out. Inflation is at 3.1%, still above target, while growth has collapsed to 1.4%. That is not a soft landing. That is stagflation. History is a wheel. It turns slowly, but it crushes everything in its path. We have a slowing GDP, 1.4%. We have a permanent price hike, CPI 326. We have a consumer trading down to survival food, plus 17% private label. And we have a government running a deficit of 6.6% of GDP just to pretend everything is fine. The everything shortage of 2021 has become the everything slowdown of 2026. Ruchir Sharma predicted trends for 2025. But even the best economists miss the psychological break. The moment when the consumer simply says, no more. That moment is here. 3 times in the last century, we stood at this exact precipice. 3 times, the experts said. The fundamentals are strong. They thought they were different. Don't make the same mistake. The dashboard is broken. Look out the window. The car has stopped. Prepare accordingly.